2020 was only the beginning. You must prepare yourself for the road to Olympus.
Exactly. That was pretty cool. You like that video?
I love that video.
They saw the video.
I think I've seen it. I probably added like 1,000 views to it.
I think you've spent more time on that video being precise, maybe more than anything else this year.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, so good job to you and the people who actually made it.
Oh yeah, thank you.
What's up, guys? What episode is this? Number 4? We're back for week 4 of the Coaches Roundtable. It's becoming a thing. We've enjoyed doing it, and this week we are talking about something that I need, not because of exercise, but because of mom life, which is rest. We're talking about rest days, and this is a question that we get so much on our Facebook group. I'm sure the coaches get it in the coaches' emails too. There's a lot of, I wouldn't say arguing, but people who have differing opinions talking to each other on the Facebook group about it all the time. Like, why don't we program rest days? How often should I be resting? People who don't rest at all. And so this is a topic that I think is really important for us to cover, and I'm super pumped that we're going to do it. Of course, if you want to read about it on the members only page, on the members only website, they're under Learn, under the Unlocked series, you can find the write-up, which is very long, actually. I pulled it up. I have it printed right here, that talks about all things rest days. And really, I think the conversation is about rest days, but also in that write-up, it talks about different types of days, where there's high-intensity days, days where you're just moving to move, and then rest days. People ask about active rest, all that stuff. So it's a pretty deep topic that we'll try to keep relatively short, 30 minutes here. So yeah, right out of the gate, I would say, what are the questions that you guys, because you guys answer questions more than anyone, that you guys see the most when it comes, or the misinformation or the confusion that you guys see the most when it comes to rest days?
It's a good question, and I don't know if we get a lot of different questions, or at least I do. So I don't know that there's one that's more common, but I think that either people come from, they've been told that they have to work out 3 days in a row and take 1 day off, no matter what. That's just how you do it, right? Or they want to not ever take a rest day because they don't want to lose their consistency, because we talk so much about consistency. So yeah, I think there's just the overall theme is a lack of understanding or a little confusion surrounding what it means to rest and how it's actually part of your training and not something that's taking you away from your training.
On the Facebook group, before we wrote this, the write-up that is now part of the Unlocked series, this was probably a couple years ago, I had gone onto the Facebook group like I like to do and take polls to kind of see, what's going on with the members. And I asked a question, how often do you rest? And I gave them, I think, 3 or 4 options, but the highest result was whenever I feel like I need it. 2 days a week was the second highest result, and then 1 day a week was the third highest result. And we definitely had people in the comments. I don't think I gave this as an option because I didn't want to encourage it, but we definitely had people in the comments saying that they never rest, which is like, we'll get into here in just a second. So in the write-up, I said none of those are necessarily a right or wrong answer. I was just curious as to how people gauge it. I personally am like in between the when I feel like I need it and 2 days a week. I've never done no rest days, like not even active recovery. I've always, even when I was competing, taken at least one full, I don't do anything exercisey, I guess, at all. What about you guys?
Yeah, same. I was never the type to not rest, at least 1 or 2 days a week. Now it's like I'm kind of the same way. Like I trust myself enough to know if I should rest. But for the most part, it falls on the same days, Thursday and Sunday. But I also kind of leave the door open. If I'm just wrecked on Wednesday, I'll take that as a rest day and then work out on Thursday, or vice versa.
For me, it's definitely changed. I always knew, even early on when I first started doing functional fitness, right, even my training partners at the time, I just kind of listened to what they told me, and I just followed their schedule of, oh, we're resting today, no worries. And I was like, okay, cool. So I never really thought too much about it up until later on, you know, even a couple, 3, 4 years ago, right, had the importance of what the body does when it's resting and why it's so important. Because, you know, especially for us, that we know how to approach a workout with intensity and what that feels like. And so what damage is being done to the body in a beneficial way with the amount of stress that we're putting into our body, your body then needs to properly recover. Because if you keep just kind of trying to work out with intensity every single day, then at some point your performance just starts dropping. But again, that's like very advanced as an individual, kind of something that we're gotten to a point of. But sometimes people will try to overdo things, you know, and not realize what's going on. Well, I'm glad that we do know what's going on. So I do like to follow the format of, you know, just it kind of flows with our personal week as well. And I think people should structure their week based off of what their personal week looks like. So we like to go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, rest Thursday. Even though there's days where Thursday, I feel like, yeah, I could still do another workout and be okay. But I know now what my body needs. So it's like, cool, Thursday's off, no problem. And then we go back at it Friday. But then Saturday, this is where there's times where it's like, yeah, you could actually probably rest, or you know what, move and don't worry about intensity today. And that's where we kind of, you know, go in and do something fun that doesn't seem so exhausting. And then Sunday, completely off. Working out is just not even thought about unless we're trying to be, you know, active with our little guys running around to the park and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what we follow now.
So I feel the best when I do something that's very intentional for my body every day, but definitely at least 2 of those days it might involve me taking my joints through a full range of motion, but it would be in the form of like a very restorative yoga or maintenance session. So I'm not being very physically active, but I'm still carving out time for myself or for my fitness, and I'm using my body, but there's zero intensity. And I think that, you know, that is a huge, huge thing to keep in mind, is that when their intensity is involved, then there needs to be zero intensity days as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's where, well, I got myself into some social media trouble a few weeks ago.
You?
When I shared an opinion about the idea of maybe not taking a rest day at all for 3 months. You know, yes, there are different types of days where I think depending on the type of person you are, something like yoga or something like a hike or something like, you know, going for a swim or something like that could be a rest day for you. Now, if you're of the wrong mindset, if you're more like Julian, all of a sudden you're like going for like a hike and you're turning it into like trying to PR your 5K or something like that, because it's just how you're wired. And I think those people need to be careful about that situation happening. I've been trying to do more stretching and maintenance and stuff like that too. I think that's super beneficial. In the write-up, we talk about those different types of days, about intensity days, moving days, and then just straight up rest days. And I encourage you guys to check it out, because based on where your current fitness level is, we kind of give some guidelines about where you might want to be. So for example, I think like I'll just give like one example of a very beginner person we have in there should have 3 workout days, and none of those, if you're beginner, you haven't been working out at all, you're brand new to this type of training, or you've just had a baby or something like that, 3 workout days where none of those you should be even worried about intensity yet. Just go in and work out. 2 what we call like moving days, where it's you might not start the clock. Like Julian was saying, sometimes we do on Saturdays, do something fun, move around, maybe push your baby in the stroller, go on a hike, something like that. And then still having 2 days that are just complete rest days. So that would be like an example of a beginner. And in that write-up, we have examples of how to progress that to where now you're starting to add in some intensity days and things like that. This is kind of the idea where the street parking send it came from, that I've been posting about on our Facebook group lately, where it's like choose one day where it's like you really, 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 really go for it. And I do find it funny that we have so many members that think that they do that every day. What is your opinion specifically about members who think that they send it 7 days a week? What would you say to them?
Well, nothing really, because I just don't really pay attention to much of that nonsense. Because it's just so hard for somebody to really go full send 7 days a week, right? And okay, or maybe you do, but then what do the next 7 days look like after you go full send 7 days a week, right? It's just not sustainable. And then another time, for us, it's easy to analyze, like, okay, what workout did you send it on, and see what the goal time is on the faster realm, or what this workout should take if an elite athlete were to approach it, right? And if someone said they were sending it, but they were like 3-4 minutes off of the goal time that we know how long this workout would take, well then, did they really, right? Or so I don't know. It's just sometimes I think a lot of people try to go that route because they may have certain other goals that they want to achieve, or they think that going that hard in workouts is going to help them lose weight, or they need to prove something. And there's just a lot of layers, but we'll keep it very simple for today's discussion for sure. But again, maybe you could send it full send, but
yeah, so one of the things in the write-up is if it's an intensity day for you and it's not just a mover day or whatever, and you're hitting this workout with the proper intensity for like a full send type day, if you finish that workout and 5 minutes later you're like, yeah, I think I could do another one, then you kind of did it wrong. Mm-hmm. And those types of days, I think at the most we had like in this write-up for any person should be like 3 days a week of being able to fully go for it. And I don't think it's so much my age. I think it's my current level of like busyness and sleep that I don't get for my children. I have like 2 of those in me a week right now. And sometimes it's only 1. It's like the vault workout and that's it. Or if Alex or Kaylee or someone's there and or Rachel, and I'm trying to like stay ahead of them, I might go for it a little bit harder, but there's no way. How are you? Cause I mean, you're the youngest on this group. You don't have children.
I have the oldest soul,
how's your send it meter, or how many days would you say are intensity versus I'm working out, but I'm more just kind of like moving?
The last couple months actually have been more consistent moving days. And they've had to be like mentally for me, emotionally, because I'm dealing with a few injuries. And I think like always the broad overarching theme for us is like our goal is to maintain consistency. And so it's either me get super bummed out and not work out at all, or me just concede to moving and not worry so much about my score or beating someone else or doing it a certain way. That way when I am healed up, because I will be, I have that habit still, and then I can start sending it more often. But I sent it today. I was super proud. Yeah, I did the wall balls unbroken, and wall balls are just, I mean, at 5'2", I mean, they're rough. So yeah, 5 rounds, 25. And I love how you put it. Don't game it. Because I game so many workouts, and it's like, if it's going to, it's okay. If it's going to hurt your score, it's okay. And that's how I went for it. So yeah, like 1 or 2 a week.
Yeah, I think too, the people that feel that they do 7 days a week of intensity are probably people who have been doing this type of training for a long time. And the longer you've been doing it, the more you can game the workout and still actually get a decent score, but not hurt yourself that much. I can do that. You can do that. Like, I feel like all of us know how to do that. Versus I'm going to try to do the first round as fast as possible and then just kind of see what happens. That's what we're talking about here. And that's where I love seeing people when they're new to this type of training. Like Aki's a perfect example of this. She doesn't know that she doesn't know how not to send it. And so, you know, you have to kind of learn that. But once it's learned, it can actually like hold you back a little bit because you know where to stop in order to not go that route. Now, I kind of want to talk about this idea of consistency, because one of the things that we talk about in the write-up is how trying to hit intensity every day or trying not to take rest days, and this was kind of my issue with the 3 months of no rest days, can actually, in the long run, hurt your consistency. Because if you feel, and this is a problem that people have a lot of times when they go to gyms where they're maybe feel like they need to compete with the person next to them. They feel like if they can't perform at the level that they're capable of 7 days a week or even 5 days a week, they just won't work out. It's like, oh, whatever, like I'm exhausted today. I don't even want to, like my time's going to be slow. I know so many people who in that situation would choose not to work out as opposed to just moving and not starting the clock. And I think that's where having this idea that you need intensity every day or a certain number of days a week that you have to hit no matter what with intensity will actually mess up consistency in the long run. And I know, like, when we first started, I mean, we were like that, where if you weren't going to have a good workout or you were going to look bad, you just almost didn't want to work out at all. How did you get over that?
You just, when you start realizing why, like, kind of like what was really going to be affected, right? I think it more so my ego, right? Because I felt like people just expected like top goal time all the time, and they were like, but if they saw me struggling, you know, people thinking that I was like not in good shape, and you know, because for so long we got identified as being professional CrossFit athletes who are supposed to be the top shape in the world. So kind of like learning to let go that, you know, was something that needed to be worked on. So yeah, once I became more open about the days, I was like, whatever, I'm just going to move through this. Or, you know, that's why I like giving my closeout tips at the end to explain to people, look, this is what I felt today, this and that. Go, and that's it. You just move on, right? I think people are able to relate to that more, and then gives them the confidence to like, okay, there are days like that you just don't go full send, you know. So it's you just kind of learn to work on it and realize that nobody really cares about yourself.
Literally no one cares.
Yeah, nobody cares.
No one, literally no one cares what your score is except for you. Jeb, wouldn't you say that there's definitely pros and cons of working out alone. I would say a lot of times people will say I have a hard time, you know, going as hard when I'm by myself. But I think that idea of not feeling the pressure, I've seen a lot of people recently saying I actually think I might go harder when I'm by myself because I can just relax and do me and choose the right weight and things like that. I mean, do you see that a lot with our members, like where they're actually maybe able to go harder or hit higher intensity because they're alone and not surrounded by other people?
I think it's a mix, and to be honest, and I think I might also fall into this category, but the amount of intensity that somebody can apply in a workout is sort of inversely proportional to the number of intensity days that they do in a week. So if you're doing a few days of sort of, you know, it's still like you're still moving fast and that kind of thing. You're just not sending it. Right, but it puts you in the movement mind state, and you're watching yourself move, and you're kind of into it, so that when you actually do go full on, you don't have that same like panic where when we're first starting out, you're like, oh my God, what is happening right now? You know, and so you can actually think while you're in the workout, and you can be like, I think I can go harder right now. And then you go harder and you're like, this is crazy. I'm going super high intensity right now, but I think I can keep going. And so it allows people to sit in the intensity better if they actually govern the amount of intensity days that they do each week rather than just trying to do it every day.
And I think, like, going back to rest days, I think that people, because a lot of people who work out 7 days a week, it might be attached to a goal, but I think that there's a certain personality type that it's, like, for me, like, it's a very anti-anxiety thing. Like, when I exercise, I have better mood. I deal with, like, stress better and all of that. And I think a lot of people who tend to move every day are in that same group a little bit. But I will say that if you are that type of person and you take a rest day, which is going to be hard for you to do, the excitement that you have to work out the next day is so great, and those end up being some of the best workouts for you because you're pumped to get back in there, you're pumped to make up maybe the workout that you missed or something like that. So there's a lot of benefit to it psychologically. Not everything when it comes to rest days, I would say a large portion of what the benefits of rest days is not necessarily physical or for physical results. It's psychological, it's emotional, and all that kind of thing. And creating an environment where you're excited to work out again, or you're excited to go make up the workout you missed, I think is just as big of a benefit as resting your muscles and your nervous system and all of that stuff as well. In the write-up, we talked about, like, what the issues are. So for someone like myself, resting when I feel like I need it works because I love to work out. Now, if you're someone that does not necessarily love to work out and you're trying to make this a habit, resting when you feel like you need it might not be the best option because you're going to feel like you need it way more often than you maybe physically or mentally actually do. So overcoming and learning new habits and getting, becoming uncomfortable and being comfortable being uncomfortable, if that's something new for you, then resting when you feel like you need it might not be the best. Now, but having specific days a week, which I know you mentioned, and you mentioned we do kind of have specific days a week, that works unless you have a busy, full life with ups and downs and things that get thrown at you. The example that I think I put in the write-up is if you always rest on Thursday and Sunday, and then so you rested Thursday, and then on Friday something comes up and you are unable to work out. Like literally you're sitting in the emergency room with Jed because he swallowed a nail. Okay, and just there goes your workout time. That actually did happen. Side story. You panic. You're like, oh my gosh, I rested 2 days in a row. Like it's completely messed up my schedule. My schedule's all thrown off, and it can cause more anxiety around your fitness than is necessary. Or like Alex was saying, if you always rest on Thursday and Sunday and you are wrecked on Wednesday, you might push through when it's not beneficial for you to push through. So you got to be really careful about being too rigid in your set schedule. And we really try to encourage in street parking, again, those moving days where it's like, hey, if you want to stick to a schedule, you need to be okay with some of those days being a shift workout with, no clock and really lightweight and not trying to like go at full intensity and full speed, and learning to listen to your body, which if this is new for you might take a little bit for you to do. So that's why we kind of put some more suggestions in there about all of that stuff as well. Do you have questions, Nicole?
So many questions.
Oh, wow.
All right, question number 1. How does one tell the difference between unmotivated or it's time for a rest day?
Jed, I feel like you'll have a deep answer to this one.
That's a really legitimate question, and I don't know that there's a concrete answer for it. So I think it's very individualized, and so if you're not sure if it's a matter of motivation or that you need a rest day, what that really means is that you probably have a young enough training age, right? That maybe you just need to keep trying to answer that question for yourself over time, and it will become clearer what the answer is. And so if you're at that place in your training, it might be a good idea to do your best to get on a little bit more of a schedule as far as I'm going to work out Monday, Tuesday, take a rest day Wednesday, work out Thursday, take a rest day Friday, work out Saturday, whatever it happens to be, and check out that newsletter because there's a lot of really good examples of how to structure your week. But I would start err on the side of something that is not going to lead to overtraining or under recovering, and then you'll be able to get a little momentum with your training. Probably the lack of motivation is not going to be an issue after that if you are gradually ramping up your volume, your intensity, your training days.
I would say, too, a good way to gauge if you're feeling like, I don't know if I'm just so wrecked or if I'm unmotivated today, go in and start warming up. If you start warming up and you feel better and you're like, no, I'm fine, I can do something, then it was probably a little bit of lack of motivation. If you go in and like you maybe even start the workout and it's just getting worse, then yes, feel free to stop at that point. We give you permission and take a rest day. I think that's the best way to find out in the moment what's going on.
In that same vein, we've had a couple people ask, what about mental rest days? So you're in there, you start warming up and you just, I can't do this.
Kind of same thing. It depends on the person. So again, if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily enjoy working out yet, I would encourage you to push through those days because that's going to be habit forming. If you're somebody who normally loves it and you're in it and you're like, I don't want to be doing this at all, then that's a different story. That's a different situation.
Well, hit us with another one.
You guys spoke earlier about active recovery. Is there, I know there's a bunch of different ways to define it, but when does it go from being active recovery to I'm not recovering at all? What would you say is a good measurement of active recovery?
Yeah, go for it, Alex, because I've never been an active recovery person. I'm lazy on my rest days.
Same, actually. But I think if after the next day you feel rejuvenated and ready to work out, then I think it was appropriate. If the next day, though, it hinders you or demotivates you or you do feel wrecked and you don't want to work out the next day, then I think it's no longer recovery.
If you're going to use whatever you did in your active recovery as an excuse for having a slow time the next day or not a great score, like, I had an active recovery and I'm wrecked from my active recovery, then that was probably not, like Alex was saying, a good active recovery choice.
Julian, have you ever taken an active recovery day?
Was that somebody asking a question?
No, it's her.
Is that you? Nice, Nicole. Nice.
We used to go swimming.
We used to go swimming, or I remember when we used to have Frank here, we'd play a lot of basketball. You know what's so funny about these active recovery days, though, when it comes to
That
different...
was not active recovery. That was injury.
Oh, yeah.
How to get injured
it's so
101.
funny, right? Where your active recovery is like doing regular sports, but those regular sports are the ones that actually injure you. Yep. And we've seen so many stories. It's like, I went to go play soccer and I rolled my ankle. I went to go play basketball and I sprained a wrist. It's like, it's so crazy how that works. But I would say, though, like if I take a look at our lifestyle, I mean, we have a dog that needs a lot of walking throughout the day. We have a very hyper 3-year-old. We're constantly moving back and forth between the office. So sometimes that is actually a very active rest day for many individuals. And then for me, honestly, it makes me feel good that I'm at least moving as well. And I would consider that my active rest day, to be honest.
The maintenance videos are so great for that.
We have a question from the Bracy girl. She said, since sending it was brought up, I'm a pretty lazy person. I can relate. And kind of dependent on peer pressure to go all out. Being alone is tough. Do you have any advice for kind of kicking yourself into high gear when you're alone?
Yeah, so we try to, again, look at the goal times and the goal scores. That's why we provide those, is to help you so that you don't have to compare yourself to anyone else. You make it fit in there and choose the right customizations for that for you. And then also what we've been doing or on Sundays when I've been posting those send it videos, I've been saying the wall balls today were a perfect example. Try to do them unbroken. Even if you think that that's going to ruin your score for the rest of the workout, little mini challenges. So you know your strengths and weaknesses, maybe not at first when you start, which means you're probably just going to be sending it all the time because you don't know your strengths and weaknesses yet. But once you do, look at the workout and you'll find the movement or the number of reps or something that you're like, ugh, that's going to suck. Focus on that and push yourself out of your comfort zone when it comes to that.
Awesome. We'll take one more question.
If the weekends are meant to be less intense, why are Saturday workouts so extreme?
I don't think we ever said the weekends were supposed to be less intense.
We never said that.
Nope.
So,
As a matter of fact, first of all, weekends are weird right now because what does that even mean? Also, I mean, even when life was pre-2020, I figured that people kind of had maybe more time on Saturdays to do some stuff. So I don't think that we ever said that weekends were supposed to be less
okay, I
intense.
think that I might know where they got that idea.
Oh, because we do Saturdays.
We do Saturdays miscellaneously because when we do street parking workouts, we like to be one day ahead so that members can watch us do it, go live. So by the time we get to Saturday, we have already done the Saturday workout, most of us. And so we just kind of use that as a day for us to kind of like come up with something that might appear later on in the street parking programming, or Miranda's coming up with these street parking Oli imams. So we'll just, do a lifting sesh as well, which is, those are always fun because, you don't have to approach those with intensity, and we come from a background where we just enjoy lifting when it's not under pressure or we don't have to compete.
I would say that one thing that we haven't talked about, which is really important before we wrap this whole thing up, is there's a lot more to improving your recovery than just taking a day off. So if you want to be able to improve the intensity that you're putting in the workouts and you want to be able to take less rest days or add in more actual workout days under intensity, if you're trying to improve that and not feel so tired or wrecked or sore, taking a day off is not the only way and potentially not even the most effective way to improve all of that whole situation. You've got to look at things like your nutrition. That's probably the number one thing that you should be looking at. Are you eating enough? Are you eating the right amount of foods? All of that stuff to support the training that you're trying to do. Your sleep is going to hugely affect how many days a week you're able to send it or go hard and how you're feeling in these workouts. Trust me. And even just stress, like what you have going on. If you have kids at home that are homeschooling all the time now and just like your nervous system is fried, all of that stuff will play a huge role on your recovery between workouts and will play a huge role in how often you're able to hit these workouts with intensity. 2020 for you might have been, I've just been moving this entire year. Like intensity is not even a thought in my mind and I've just been moving, and that's fine. There will be periods, there will be highs and lows. What you should do though is notice, I've been having a hard time hitting intensity for like 6 months now. If there's anything you can improve, try to improve it. Now, we're all kind of in weird situations right now where that might be difficult, but take a look at your nutrition, take a look at your sleep. Can you improve in some of these other areas so that you feel better going into the gym or into your living room or whatever? Don't just think that rest days is going to be the fix for that stuff, because it's definitely not the only or even most useful tool.
That's right. And with that, we're going to wrap up this week's episode of the Coaches Roundtable. Thank you so much for all of you guys who are watching right now. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with anybody that you feel might need to hear any of that, what we discussed.
I'm going to send it to Christine Young.
Very nice.
No, she
Very
takes
nice.
rest
Very
days.
nice.
Very adamant on Sundays.
All right. So that is episode 4, guys. We'll check in with you guys next week.
2020 was only the beginning. You must prepare yourself for the road to Olympus.